I'm so happy to be home.
Hey, look at me. I'm wearing a green shirt. Oh, no, that's not me. Run! Run away! Go.
Hi, Anthony.
Look at my fancy car.
Ready? Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! It's July 14th, 2019, Season 3, Episode 28. I'm Eric Murphy.
And I'm Thomas Westbrook.
Thomas Westbrook. Wait, don't you have a YouTube channel?
I do. Holy Kool-Aid. I take different complex topics and I break them down in an animated way, and I teach critical thinking and promote scientific skepticism.
If you haven't checked them out, please check them out. Holy Kool-Aid is friggin' awesome. You've been on this show before. You are a recurring guest.
I think it's my fourth time.
Really?
Yeah. Fourth time's the charm.
I'm down. I think that might put you tied with Matt for...
Maybe.
Yeah,
we
we're
were
gonna have
tied
to check.
before, and then he went on
Yeah.
recently. So. Or neck and neck.
Well, so before we get into calls today, I did have a couple I had a couple announcements. The first is that I just got back from Kentucky last weekend. I went to the Ark Encounter annual protest with Tri-State Freethinkers and Kentucky Free Thought.
How was that?
Dude, it was fun. It was a ton of fun. The people were really, really nice. It was hot. I usually dress like this everywhere I go, and it was so hot and humid, I did it in shorts and sandals. And so...
But the camera's only shooting from the waist up, right? So,
yeah, except
so
for the people who took pictures.
And
Yeah, so it was wonky. It was wonky.
He's just wearing boxers right now.
I mean, that's most weekends. Yeah. No, it was an absolute blast. Went. Aaron Raw was there. No Illusions was there. Jim Helton.
I saw him juggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was an absolute blast. I also celebrated my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It was on July 9th.
Can we ask publicly how old you are?
I'm 32. Yeah. Actually, the entire protest sang happy birthday to me, which was fun. Apparently, I share a birthday with Kelly Helton, and so we both went up on stage and they sang happy birthday to us, which was nice. But that was an absolute blast, and I'm really, really grateful that I get to do this. I know that Jamie and I have been leapfrogging episodes, and that's allowed me to go and do really awesome things like debates. Let's see, the last one I was in was, it's every other weekend I've been going out. So I was in Kentucky, and then before that I was in Tennessee, and then before that I did a debate in Oklahoma. It's just been back to back to back, and I'm really, really grateful. It's been a huge, really explosive time for me, and I'm really, really grateful. And
that's awesome.
To the audience, thank you so much. This is a dream come true. I'm absolutely loving this. And as I move into this next year, for me, I'm hopeful and I'm excited. And I just wanted to say thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing some of that debate footage, because I know that you've been working closely with Matt Dillahunty, who has, more experience than almost any of us when it comes to debating.
Yeah, actually, he's been really, really good. He has gone to a few of them. Also, he sits with me and we go over the debate. Because of that, they've actually been going up on his channel. So if you want to see debate footage or speaking footage, it's been going up on the Atheist debates if people want to check that out. But for now, this is Talk Heathen. Another quick announcement. Atheist Vanguard has been doing a series. They are up to part 3, and so we're going to be doing a hard stop today at 2:30. There's a link in the description, so after this show is done, go ahead and click that link and check it out, because it's kind of wild what they've been breaking down. I hope that they're doing well.
I'm assuming you're talking about the Tommy McMurtry phone call?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for people not familiar with it, there's a denomination called the New Independent Fundamentalist Baptists, and they recently had a Make America Straight Again conference in Orlando on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting to celebrate the death of gay people and to advocate for capital punishment for gay people. And so I actually flew out there to do a protest of that event. But before that happened, the Atheist Vanguard called up one of the pastors, Tommy McMurtry, and they did they had a conversation/interview with him, and it was just a very kind of, they kept things very like neutral, and they didn't, they wanted to get information from him to then break down on the show. But what they've been doing is, and I say they, but like I was on one of the episodes too. I had the privilege to, sit and talk about the conversation. And it's some very, very, I think crazy is an understatement, but it's a really interesting conversation, and just breaking down some of the stuff that is brought up is just...
In the mind of a hate preacher.
I think it's more taking a look objectively at what happens when you take a ancient dogmatic book literally. Because, there's passages where he talks about how, what the justification is for stoning disobedient children to death and forming lynch mobs
Super
and
moral.
stuff. And just breaking it down. He's like, well, here's the logical justification. And he goes off on this ridiculous contortion of backbends in order to somehow justify this. And they're all just pedophiles, and they're people, these are, just fat, lazy people sitting in their mom's basement, watching child porn. And it's like, what? Like, how do you get from a disobedient child should be stoned to, these are just a bunch of,
degenerates.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, we have laws for pedophilia. We don't have laws for, being fat or living in your mom's home. And but you got to go and listen to it. The whole conversation, like the entire time, I was just pulling my hair out inside, thinking like, how do you possibly get to these kind of justifications?
Dude, I'm excited.
It's the danger of dogma.
So on a lighter note, when you went to that protest, you did something that I recommended you not do. Because I thought, you know what? If anybody's going to take you seriously in the future, what we really don't want is a video of you in a giant pumpkin suit twerking at the but it exists. If you want to go check out Holy Kool-Aid and see this numbnuts twerking in a pumpkin suit, there is not enough. I will never be able to unsee that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
It's the one thing that I'm learning the longer that I'm on the internet is there's going to be people who are going to hate you no matter what. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be people who, are just kind of neutral and think, whatever, until you do something that is, I'm willing to be myself and put it all out there and just have fun and be goofy. And at the same time, take a stand for things that I believe in. And when you do that type of stuff, then people see who you are. And if they hate who you are, those people are still going to hate you. But then, others will admire and respect you for just being yourself and having fun.
See, this is how he's justifying me making fun of him relentlessly. Yeah. All right.
It is an extremely goofy video, though. It
is. I got a whole bunch of happy birthdays in the live chat. Thank you so much. That's really, really sweet. And then I want to dive into calls. The last two things I want to say is if you do want to call in, we have full lines, but there's a chance after we take a call that you might be able to squeeze in. The number's 512-686-0279. That's 512-686-0279. And if you like what we do, this show, Talk Heathen, is owned and shot at the Atheist Community of Austin. If you'd like to support what we do and continue to enable us to create more content like this, we highly suggest you go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. We are absolutely subsistent on small donations, and so anything that you can do, it's appreciated. And even if you can't, subscribe, hit that bell, and share it out, because there are people who will just downvote it because it's an atheist show.
Yeah, while we're taking this next call, everyone who's watching live and on the chat and afterwards, just if you hit the like button, it does actually help with the algorithm to increase the exposure of this, and it helps them out. So hit that like button.
Yeah.
Who do we got on the line?
So let's start with, I want to go with Michael in Connecticut. You're live with Eric and Thomas. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine, thank you.
Oh, awesome. What do you want to talk about today?
So I wanted to bring something to your attention because for the most part, you guys are pretty much adroit in dealing with the less nuanced and less perspicacious theists.
Okay.
I'm a transtheist and I'm an omnist. And I specialize in a holistic interface where science and spirituality converge. I've been studying it for about 20 years. And one of the things to which it basically staggers my imagination about is that
Michael.
atheism...
Michael.
Yes.
It sounds like you've got this practiced, and I hate to get you off your...
No, I I get this a lot. I talk really fast.
But you said where science and what converge?
Science and spirituality converge.
What does that mean?
So what happens is that recently, within the last probably 15 to 20 years, there's been an emerging new field of science, one of which is called consciousness studies and the other which is called transpersonal psychology, which established the empirical factual existence of psychic phenomena.
Wait.
Empirical.
Which one of these fields?
The empirical and the factual existence of psychic phenomena.
So actually, I have someone who's very well versed in psychics sitting right next to me today. You called at the right time.
We're not talking about psychics. We're talking about independently verified laboratory control conditions under military observation.
Are you talking about Project Alpha?
No, I'm not talking about Project Alpha.
Okay. What are you talking
research which was commandeered by David Morehouse, who himself was basically a member of the U.S. Army's Intelligence Security Command and Defense Intelligence with the agency's Directorate of Science and Technology. And they actually operate between 1987 and 1989 a series of experimental investments, which established that psychic phenomena was real, it had military applications.
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
Is this like the men who stare at goats?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
I want to stop you right here because during those days, I'm not sure if the project that you're describing is different, but I do happen to know personally a psychologist named Dr. Ray Hyman, who he worked with the Department of Defense, and he was called out to go and investigate psychic phenomenon to see if there was actually anything there that worked, to see if it had any military application, to see if they could put people in rooms and do sensory deprivation on them and see if they could actually tell what was going on in, a Soviet research facility or something. And he went out and he investigated it, and he found that there was not anything. There was no functionable intelligence, and the U.S. military discontinued the program and declassified it shortly after.
See, what you're basically talking about is that when you're dealing with, that's a logical fallacy, first of all. You're introducing anecdotal evidence on the side of a study.
Isn't that what
you're just derailing the conversation by introducing somebody else's personal report?
No. This is not anecdotal evidence. This is the result of their study, of their findings.
So
this is a PhD. He is a psychologist, and before that he had actually worked as a magician and psychic. And he knew how people were fooled.
What's the name of the study? Because otherwise, you're just basically providing material evidence that's unsubstantiated.
Look up Project Alpha.
He's
giving you the name. Shut up for a second, Michael, and you'll hear it.
Do a Google search on Project Alpha, and Project Alpha was the Alpha Kids. It was Project Stargate was the military one, and if you look up Project Stargate or Operation Stargate or it's something Stargate, and it was the CIA and the Department of Defense.
I'm familiar with that. That's not the study that I'm actually making a reference to.
No, that's the study that he's referencing. So
what I'm doing is I'm correlating David Morehouse's with another study.
Okay, so let's.
Dr. Dean Radin published an entire text consisting of.
This is a conversation. This is not where you talk at us. So I want to converse about this with you. So what?
Okay, so let me just.
What is this phenomena? No, hold on. What is this phenomena that is empirically proven that you can show us?
Well, what is the phenomena that is empirically proven that I could show us?
Yes.
That's such a vague and ambiguous question.
Because I'm leaving a whole bunch of room for you. Astral projection.
Actually,
is it mind reading? Is it ESP?
How the research? This is not actually even the crux of my argument. This is just basically an aside that we're on.
Okay, then what? Then quit wasting my time, Michael. No, Michael, quit wasting my time. Don't give me ancillary bullshit. I have a whole bunch of people on the line. Give me what you want to talk about.
Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is that you wanted evidence. Or do you want evidence or do you want proof for the existence of God? Which one? Because they're different things.
I mean, both? Either? Let's start with one of them.
Okay, so proof is always a function of logic. For example, if I say all dogs are mammals, Rex is a dog, subsequently Rex is a mammal, all I have to do is set up a series of disjunctive syllogisms to prove the deductive argument is either true or false.
Assuming that the premises are correct.
Assuming that the premises are correct. And so to the degree to which we're capable of doing that, the argument is considered true. So in this particular instance,
hold on, Michael.
From this particular instance, we can actually formulate.
Michael?
Yes.
So I agree with you, and you can give a deductive argument that
Right.
so long as it internally makes sense,
Okay.
can be...
Right, I'm about to do that.
Well, hold on. As long as it internally makes sense, can be shown to, work, but also not be true, right? So one of them is hard solipsism, right? People say, what if we all live in the Matrix? You can't disprove that, and if you were to logically line that out, it would work, but we don't actually have evidence. It kind of makes sense in a vacuum. So as we're going through this, I want you to know what's going on in my mind. Hold on.
That's not even a one-to-one correspondent with the argument that I'm attempting to provide.
I understand that. What I'm saying is I want you to know what's going on in my mind as you're giving this. Because I want you to...
Let me give you the background information.
To be fair to Michael...
Smart guys, I think you'll be able to follow it.
Real quick, to be fair to Michael, he did ask if we want evidence or proof, and we asked for a proof.
Right.
So I want to hear you out.
For proof, right.
Okay.
Okay, so...
let's hear the premises.
And I'm not arguing for the existence of God like Christ or Krishna or Vishnu. I'm arguing for the existence of God as a logical concept, which must necessarily correspond with something that matches the criteria.
Can you define God
Because in order to actually argue for the existence of God, first you actually have to have a substantiated logical concept which is valid, that can actually be graphed onto an empirical observation of some kind.
Okay, hold on. You gave me a bunch of descriptors to something that didn't have a definition. Michael.
Right, so I'm getting to the definition, which is
Michael.
I'm getting to the definition, because you cannot have logical arguments without definitions.
I agree. So I'm going to lead this, and I'm going to ask you questions, okay? And if you don't like how it's going, you can bring that up. But right now, you're running roughshod over both of us, and I don't like it. So what are your premise? Let's start. How do you define God?
As a maximally great being, which no greater being is conceivable.
Okay. How can you show that is existent in our universe?
By virtue of a syllogistic argument, which is deductive in nature.
Okay. Give me the premises. Let's start with premise 1.
God, by definition, is a maximally great being, which no greater being is conceivable.
That is by your definition, right?
That's by this. Yeah, that is the current definition as per Saint Anselm, and it's also been historically validated and scientifically validated.
Okay, hold on. Stop.
Kurt Gödel
Stop.
And Free University to be consistent and true.
Michael, do you have to get all the little crap in? I get it. I'm actually following you, but now I'm feeling more petty the more you just keep trying to insert crap. Just let's try and keep it as simple as we can, because I want people to be able to learn from this, right? Okay, so Anselm's argument, I'm with you. You said the definition of God is that which is maximally great, to which nothing greater can be ascribed, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so I don't understand how you can get there, and I'll tell you why, right? You get this turtles the whole way down kind of argument. If you say something is maximally great, then I could say, infinity plus 1. And what is greater than that God? Well, that God's God.
Well, this is just a logical fallacy for your appeal to ignorance. The fact that you don't understand how it could get there without hearing the end of the argument doesn't mean that it can't get there. So that's a logical fallacy on your part.
Michael, this is a hurdle that you're going to need to get through because you're talking to me.
Right.
So,
and previously, when you cut me off, I gave you the scientific evidence. I'll give you the research. I'll give you the research.
Michael,
what you want to look up with.
No, Michael, listen, dude. I'm asking you how you define a thing. Do you think you can research a definition into existence? I mean, some you can. You can do abstract concepts like the number 1. But I also have people call in who say, no, hold on, let me finish. I also have people who call in and say, I define God as like the universe, or I define God as that which is literally interpreted through my Bible. Right?
Okay, I'm trying to answer your question.
How can you do that before I finish asking the question, Michael? It sounds like you're waiting your turn. It's like you're waiting for your turn to talk instead of listening. Okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, if I get all of these different definitions for a God, then no, I'm not going to say, well, you're right about your God definition and you're wrong about your God definition. I'm going to say, I will work with you based on the definition that you give me. So, according to your definition,
my definition
Michael,
cannot be pulled out like a magic rabbit out of a hat.
Yes, actually, that's what you're doing. You're defining it into existence. So, number 1.
I have to provide you material evidence for how it got there, and you won't let me voice it.
Michael,
Yes.
Do you need that evidence to give me the premises? So you said premise 1, that which is maximally great.
Okay.
I'm
so
saying my stumbling block here,
rap.
my stumbling block here is you get an infinite regress.
It's an infinite regress only insofar as you keep trying to cockblock me from providing you with the material evidence that you're asking for. So let me give it to you. There's a research paper by the name of Automating Gödel's Ontological Proof of God's Existence with Higher Order Automated Theorem Provers.
Okay, higher end automated theorem provers?
Automating Gödel's Ontological Proof of God's Existence with Higher Order Automated Theorem Provers. That's where I got it.
Okay, can you describe that to me? How do you get out of...
Free University.
Michael, how do you get out of an infinite regress? Can you explain that?
The question itself is a contradiction in terms.
How so?
It's a complex question. It's a logical fallacy.
No, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's a logical fallacy, Michael.
No. It's certainly a complex question. Number one, if you're basically asking a question which contradicts itself, which is a trick question, in an infinite regress, there's no entrance and there's no exit by definition. So why are you asking questions which you know to be trick questions in the first place? Because
what you've given is something that would qualify as an infinite regress, which is why I throw it out in the first place. That's why.
So you know that you're asking trick questions in advance. How can we take you to be an intellectually honest steward of atheism?
Steward of atheism? What does that even mean?
The king of the north.
Yeah, I'm not like the Pope of atheism.
Argumentum ad terratum. You know what that is? That's where you mock the argument as a means to cover up for your ignorance of not knowing exactly what it means or to make the other person look bad.
Oh my goodness, Michael.
Let me run the argument because it's clear I've been running ripshod all over you guys. Since we begun.
You have been.
You want me to finish the argument,
you're taking advantage of the kindness of two people who are letting you on their show. So you can either calm down or I'm going to hang up on you. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah,
Ooh,
look,
say it.
Can I make
say
the argument?
Say it.
I want to hear the other two premises.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't, because I want you to tell me, instead of pointing in different directions, instead of saying, well, you need to check this thing out. You said you understand it because of a study. I'm asking you to tell me what that study said so that I can understand it. Okay. How do you get out of infinite regress?
Okay, here's the abstract. Quote, Kurt Gödel proposed an argumentation formalism to prove the existence of God. Attempts to prove the existence of God by means of abstract ontological arguments are an old tradition in Western philosophy before Gödel. Several prominent philosophers, including St. Anselm of Canterbury, Takar, and Leibniz, have presented similar arguments. Mm-hmm. Moreover, there's an impressive body of recent and ongoing work into ontological arguments. So the abstract itself, that's the foremost of the instruction. Okay. Here's the abstract in a nutshell.
Hold on, did you just fit in?
Argument for the existence of God has been formalized and automated on a computer with higher order automated theorem provers. From Gödel's premise, the computer proved necessarily there exists God. On the other hand, the theory...
Show me. I asked you to show me, to describe it, not to read the abstract.
Here's the thing. You can take a logical argument and you could plug it into a computer and it could say, oh yeah, look, if your premises are correct, then, sure, it's logically sound. That doesn't prove the existence of God. That simply proves that you have...
in terms. That's exactly what it proves.
Sorry, like a logically, was it valid versus sound?
Well,
no. A sound argument is a proven argument. That's a contradiction in terms.
Is it...
Michael? Do you understand why I'm trying to take this slow?
Yeah, because you're getting run over.
Okay. This is what getting run over looks like. Call in when you're not such an asshole. Let's get the next caller.
See, here's the thing, though. I'm pretty sure I know where he's going with this. He's saying...
I don't give a fuck where he's going with this, because don't be an asshole when you call in. If he wants to call in and be an asshole, he can call into the Atheist Experience. But I'm actually sitting and listening and trying to engage with him as a human being. And instead of doing that, he's running on a script at 1,000,000 miles a minute, which is not helpful, not useful, not educational. And the reason why we do this is so that people who are watching can follow along with it, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, what he's trying to do is say, I'm just a hotshot, I'm going to come in and run over your show. Okay, good luck. Find a different show, because that's not what we do here. So, number one, infinite regress. What that means is God is maximally awesome. Okay, what is more awesome than that? Well, God plus one, okay? Or who created God? And who created the God's creator? And, people say, turtles all the way down, or however you want to describe it. Infinite regress is creating an argument wherein the only way out is to give yourself a special exemption. And so we couldn't get through premise 1. Try again, and this time, learn to communicate in a way that's effective. Quit being an asshole, dude. Let's move on to Dave in Pennsylvania. Dave, you're talking to Eric and Thomas. How's it going?
Hi, guys.
Hello. What would you like to talk about?
My question was, how do we best arm children against indoctrination from Christian school teachers?
Ooh. Last time I was on...
Good job. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say good job hanging up on that other guy.
You know what? To be honest, if I had more time, if we weren't hitting a hard stop at the end of the show, I would love to run it out and try and parse out the pieces. No, it was. I agree. But your question is, how do we arm children against indoctrination? I'll go first, and then you go.
Specifically from Christian school teachers.
Sure. I had Dr. Daryl Ray on the last time I was on Talk Heathen 2 weeks ago, and he was asked that very question, and I liked his answer. It was through education. Right? Giving children a robust education in religion where they see that there are other religions and this is what other people believe. Not only will it help socialize that child better and create a more understanding, empathetic person, but it'll also contextualize what they're seeing so they're not going, oh, well, this is the only kind of truth there is.
Right.
I can't think of a time when education isn't the best option. But I know I'm going to toss it over to Thomas. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I love the saying, if you teach a child one religion, you indoctrinate them. If you teach them multiple, you inoculate them. You know, if they see even just a course in comparative religions and they start seeing how, oh, wow, this religion believed this similar thing, but they also had all these batshit crazy, insane ideas, then it kind of makes them start thinking why theirs is special, why theirs is unique. They see that millions of people can be fooled to believe something else with the exact same reasoning. And so I think if you couple that, not just teaching them other religions, because then you can end up in this weird, spiritual mumbo jumbo. It's all God it's all real. They're all equally. No, what you need to couple it with is critical thinking, and so that they can go into it and they can see the religion, and then they can also couple it with epistemology and trying to understand how can we know if this is true or not, and break it down using logic and reason. Then you've equipped them with the ability to come to a conclusion on their own and hopefully reach the right decision.
I don't disagree with any of that. I was thinking more along the lines of would it be helpful if there were like targeted commercials or ads on kid shows, for instance.
That would say what?
What their rights were. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're saying not at a how do I keep my child or on a one-by-one basis, but how do we do it at scale?
Yeah. If we could, in essence, shotgun this out to all kids so they would know they're not required to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. They can't be punished for saying Jesus Christ or something like that in school in a, non-prayer format or whatever. So they know that if a teacher tells them you can't say X, Y, or Z, they know they can tell the teacher they don't have to listen to that.
So I would say no. And the reason I would say no is because when I think of children and their rights, they're afforded protections, right? I saw this actually lined out really, really well in a call to Tracy Harris on the Atheist Experience, where she lined out the differences between rights and protections, right? And a protection is something that we give maybe an animal in, an endangered species, right, on a reservation, right? These are protections because we have a stewardship, right? We have an obligation to take care of this thing which cannot take care of itself, right? These are protections that we afford. And when we talk about the very young and the elderly, these are people who either aren't ready or are just incapable of self-advocacy. And so because of that, we're looking at protections. I would say that instead of arming children with their rights when they're unable to fully comprehend what that means, it would be better that we, as stewards of the next generation, as parents, as concerned citizens, that we voice that publicly, right? We should be working at that on a public level and trying to take out, different religious attitudes so that kids can, make up their own minds once they're able to do so. But I would say that arming children is probably not the best, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, then what about commercials for adults, for instance, to maybe encourage them to talk to their kids? I know Christians aren't going to do this, of course, but so that adults can talk to their kids about it and expose them to it.
I think that's fantastic. I know that a very formative time for me that really informed a lot was when I first learned that there were other religions. I remember I was in 6th grade, and I was starting to learn about, Greek and Roman mythology. And that was the first time that I went, oh, holy crap, people believed other things? Multiple gods? That they did what? And that was huge, right? I think that Hollywood is doing a really good job, of doing that, of saying, you know what? Here are other universes where there are other deities. Just trying to broaden that and go, you know what? This isn't the only thing. I see that as much more effective. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right, and Thor, just gives people more tangible, relatable, hey, this is what somebody defined as a god. It's not just, what your teacher said in school or what your parents said.
Well, plus Thor is like super hot too. That doesn't hurt. But no, my experience was actually he is. I'm straight, but Jesus, he's great.
Dude, me too. Even Fat Thor.
Yeah. No, I don't care. But my experience was almost identical, but it was in reverse. I was never religious, but I studied mythology. I thought it was really interesting. And then later, when Christianity was proposed, it was just seen as silly because it was no more, reasonable than the mythologies.
Yeah.
I think there's two sides to this. On the one hand, I don't think that we should try to indoctrinate kids ourselves. At the same time, I think that they should be given a neutral learning environment. And when you start seeing public schools where they'll have teachers who are advocating for a particular religion, that's not legal. And that's why the FFRF will hold these schools to task. And there is a great book by Hemant Mehta, I believe it's called The Young Atheist Survival Guide. And it talks about these types of situations where kids will come out and say, I'm an atheist, and they face bullying and discrimination, not just from other students who are religious, but from teachers and from principals. And so in those types of situations, it's good to know that you have somewhere to go to, that you have somewhere to turn to. There's organizations like the Secular Student Alliance, the FFRF does legal cases, American Atheists will equip people with resources. Knowing what tools are available to you, I think, is extremely empowering.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, because, a student, if they don't know what their rights are, you have to wonder how many cases never really get brought up because kids just don't know they have the right to say no. That was why I was kind of targeting towards it. I'm against all forms of dogma. It doesn't matter what it is. But how do you let the kids know that they have a right to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that shit?
Well, some of them know that they have the right, and they don't want to face the social blowback and the social suicide that comes with standing up against, literally, you're not just going against the flow, you're going against a tsunami. And that takes a lot of guts for a kid to do. And if you have a court case, the kid's going to be involved. They can't just have some outsider come in. Like, they need the kid to actually be someone who has dealt with the discrimination or dealt with the illegalities that they're up against.
My kids went through the very same kind of things. And so that, and they had the choice. I gave them the choice. I wasn't going to take it to court unless they were okay with it. And they didn't want to face the blowback, and I don't blame them. It's a risk.
But you know what? It's an interesting conversation, and I'm glad that we're having it. Dave, I'm showing in the notes that you're a Satanist, right?
I am, yes.
Rock on, man. For people who don't know, I just would love to ask you to point out the difference. What is the difference between Satanism and atheism?
Well, my version is more of an atheistic Satanism, along the lines of Jains are also not spiritually entwined. The Satanic Temple would be the place to look at for people that don't understand it, if they're unsure of what Satanism means.
As opposed to LaVeyan Satanism or demonology.
He was a bit of a kook, I think. But
from what I understand, and please correct me if this is offensive, but a lot of Satanists are atheists that that really kind of lean into, okay, if these are the rights that are afforded religions, then we want to create a religion to be able to show exactly why it goes too far in the society that we're in. And so they push these court cases and things like that.
Correct, yes.
And that's correct?
Yeah, it's
okay.
What you hear, and I'm sure you're familiar with these cases where an atheist will bring a case to court and he'll be told, well, atheism is not a religion, therefore you have no standing.
Yep. Where
Satanism is a confirmed religion, therefore they have standing. And that's just the legal aspect of it. Then you have the tenets of the Satanic Temple, which I think are pretty sound. And, of course, the icing on the cake is that it's a huge fuck you to the Christian community, of course. You can't ignore that fun aspect of it.
Well, honestly, I think that it takes all approaches. And just like this show has an approach to be able to educate and have people see these discussions, I appreciate what y'all are doing, too. I think we're going to move on to the next call.
I think your show's great. Keep it up, guys.
Oh, thank you,
Dave, just for the record, though, like, you and most people, especially in the Satanic Temple, don't actually believe in Satan either.
No. Although we can say we do if we choose to, just to piss people off. But that's just, again, that's just for a lark,
Yeah. Just like people talk about the flying spaghetti monster. But
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but your imagery is kind of more metal, so. All righty, man.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Take care, brother.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. So, he was talking about commercials and portraying religion. When I was on my way to Kentucky, I saw the most wild poster I've ever seen. It was in Kentucky. It was across the side of a building, and it was just the upper torso of Jesus, and he's crucified, and you see like the blood and the viscera, and it's just super tortured and nasty. And it says, "Jesus loves you this much," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is the most sarcastic, amazing thing I've ever." It was a church. They actually,
the same pastors who put that up won't let their kids watch any movie that's not G-rated.
Right, but they're going to plaster like this absolutely tortured human. I mean, it was amazing. Like, I really had to think about it. I had to look into it because I thought, there's no way this isn't just the most sarcastic thing I've ever seen in my life. No, it's even better because it's real. Also, I got a donation that I just wanted to say thank you for. King of Monsters donated $100 to say happy birthday and thank you for dealing with Michael. We also had another $20 donation for you and I. Thank you. So I don't want to jump too far down that rabbit hole. We have a returning person, and I know that people will be either excited or, well, we'll find out. RAO. You're talking to Eric and Thomas.
How's it going, youngster?
Hey. Oh, is that because it's my birthday?
Yeah, well, it was. And
it
turns out your 16 was pretty close to mine. I'm 34 now, so.
Well, cheers, man.
Yeah. But,
happy birthday if it's close by.
Not even.
Not even a little bit?
Couldn't be further off.
All right.
But I wanted to say something. The Atheist Debates is the name of the show, but I've always found it on Matt Dillahunty's personal channel rather than looking for Atheist Debates.
It is on his personal channel. That's what he calls the series. But yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to maybe give people another method to find it if they were having trouble with the Atheist Debates. It could be found right on Matt Dillahunty's channel, and I'm actually a $5 patron to that one, so.
Ah. Well, cheers, man. Well, all right. So what did you want to talk about?
Tutorial, so.
Yeah.
Well, last week we had a guy from Wyoming, and he could not stop talking about frequency, but you could tell it was something that he had read about 2 sentences of and thought he had some information on, because he had completely forgot about harmonic resonance. And this comes into that Buddhist philosophy of there's not one food for one taste, nor is there one spirituality, one belief for a single person. And he's coming into the show trying to convert one of your newest co-hosts, and saying that I can tell you're in these high frequencies. I know you're in a good place. Let me change that for you. And that's the thing about harmonic resonance. When you see somebody that is that's where they need to be, that's happy in their spot, will you please leave them the hell alone and let them keep being happy?
So long as they're not hurting anybody. Unfortunately, we get it. We've gotten happy people calling in who are just absolutely off the wall, and sometimes it's better to be not as happy and have a clearer understanding of the world that we're in, just because it affects other things. I hate to be the buzzkill there, but yeah. So
I think if you're really happy, you're not trying to cause pain with others. I think all of that comes from some kind of fear within themselves, pain within themselves is the reason they need to tell everybody else that they're wrong, is basically their own insecurities.
I hear you, but I have also seen people take, schadenfreude, have pleasure in other people's pain. But RAO, we're kind of getting off topic. Before you dive into what you wanted to talk about, what's interesting about the frequencies and resonances is it makes me think of Deepak Chopra, right? And he talks about Deepak Chopra.
Just Google word salad and his face will come up.
Yeah, it's this really kind of wooey. You can't really pin it down.
It's that New Age.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the New Age hippie guy that Victor Stenger was talking about in the intro to Quantum Gods.
That sounds about right. But what did you want to talk about specifically, or is that what you wanted to talk about?
That was everything that I had. I got a little bit upset with Ben for using parts of my arguments, tying it into Christianity, and then trying to use it to convert somebody else. I wasn't happy about that, so I thought I'd say something on it.
Well, cheers, man. It's always good to hear from you, man. You take care of yourself, all right?
You too. And a happy late birthday, Eric. I've got to get myself back to work and get something done before I get fired. You all take care.
You too. Take care, brother.
What I never get is when people say we're on the same frequency. I'm like, frequency of what?
Yeah,
exactly.
Can we tune into it?
Frequency is just a measurement. It's like, okay, you're looking at like wavelength and the time between, how frequently are these waves hitting? Waves of what? Like the universe. Okay, can we get more specific? What aspect are these sound waves? Are these, and how is this exactly affecting like my mood? Is this, can we measure this scientifically? Oh no, science can't measure it yet. Okay, come back to me when it can.
Yeah, essentially. All right. Alex in North Dakota. You're talking to Eric and Thomas. How are you doing?
Sir. Hello, sir. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. What do you want to talk about?
I just heard it's your birthday, apparently.
Yeah.
Cool. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So
I'm sorry, I'm talking over you.
That's okay. Go ahead, man. There might be a bit of a delay. Go ahead.
Could be. Well, I'm new to this. I just discovered Matt Dillahunty within the week and found you guys through him. So I was just wanting to have some discussion about a handful of things. I feel like they'll all bleed into one another, so I just might as well start on one and see where it goes.
Just to get a kind of a starting point, where are you currently when it comes to your beliefs? Are you Christian? Are you atheist? Are you somewhere in between?
I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian. Okay. Specific denomination?
I don't claim any denomination. I attend a Baptist church, but I don't like the nomenclature of, the sects of Christianity. I think if you believe in the Bible, you either believe the Bible or you don't. And that's how I profess.
Well, just to give you a quick tool for that before we dive in, have you heard of the No True Scotsman fallacy?
I have not.
Okay. The No True Scotsman fallacy goes, I'll do this with Thomas. Thomas, all Scotsmen wear kilts. And Thomas would say, but look at McDougall.
I actually happen to have Scottish blood and I don't wear a kilt.
Okay, then you are not a true Scotsman.
But
right?
That's a fallacy because I have Scottish.
Right.
I'm not Scottish enough to claim to be Scottish, so it breaks down. But
for the
assuming that I was
this,
from Scotland and
born there, 100% Scottish. When you are deciding who is and who isn't, right? And even then, you can do, a blood test and go, okay, well, this is where his ancestry heralds from. It's even harder to do so with religion. If you say, well, all Christians do X, well, they don't do X, therefore they're not a Christian. It gets really, really sticky, especially on our side, because we're not really in the business of telling religious people what they believe and what they qualify as. We just kind of meet them where they're at. Yeah. And so when you say either you just believe or you don't believe, we've had callers who call in and say, well, I believe this or I accept this part, but I don't accept that part. So I just kind of want to cue you into the kind of existence of those people.
It gets really
how to engage with them.
Tricky when you have thousands of denominations and they all adhere to the same Bible and they all read the same Bible and they all claim that they worship the God of the Bible, but some of them take certain passages literally and some of them don't, and some of them take others that, may contradict or seemingly contradict with other passages. You end up with tons of denominations, and it's really hard to pinpoint and say which ones of them are and aren't Christians. And so typically when we hear someone say that they say, I'm a Christian, it's like, okay, no. I'm going to believe you there. Now, what do you believe?
Yeah.
We'll work from there.
Exactly. Just
okay.
kind of
a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So what did you want to talk about? Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, I want to start with, it's related to what one of the previous callers was talking about, secular culture. Mm-hmm. And how I've noticed that America is obviously gravitating more toward secularism,
really,
secular morality, and that's how I see.
I actually, what's funny is I actually feel like it's the opposite. I feel like it's moving more and more towards theocracy.
I think theocracy can get very convoluted, and
that's
why I say either you believe the Bible or you don't. And there are plenty of people who will say, I believe in God, or I have this opinion of the Bible, blah, blah, blah. But I think everybody can have their own idea, and that still strays from what the Bible says. So either society is either going that way or it's not. And I don't want to just rabbit trail off onto that topic of absolute black and white. I want to just hear your stance on secularism as a culture and how that is does that promote an anti-Christian perspective? How does a Christian exist in a society like that?
Sure, absolutely. That's a really good question. So first I would say that the definition of secular is that which is not religious.
Correct.
Right. So that is the counterpoint to what is religious. So we can actually talk about what is specifically religious, right? You can have religious rites and rituals, right? Like communion. You can have the act of prayer or the act of fasting in observance of that religion. All of those things you can qualify as religious activities. Everything else is secular. So you do secular things every day, like brushing your teeth, putting on your pants, going to work. Unless you work at a church, you feeding the homeless, right? That's a secular action. The religious action that someone might tie to that is going and doing a sermon before or after the meal, right? So when you say, how do we see a more secular world? I think we're already active in a mostly secular world because we have to be, right? The act of eating is secular. The act of sleeping is secular. And those are things that we need to do to survive. And so when you talk about that, I kind of see us in that. And so how do I see a Christian in that worldview? Well, I think it's the most even place for both Christians and atheists, Hindus and Muslims, all to be able to coexist because you don't have specific, laws that are saying, well, no, it's this religion over yours, or we don't allow people of this religion in. And I don't know about you, Alex, but I was a Christian soon after 9/11, and there were a lot of anti-Muslim statements and sentiments that were echoed in my church. I don't know if they were echoed in yours, but they were nasty, right? And I think as we move toward creating a secular world, we are by necessity creating one where everybody kind of has an equal playing field. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. I hear you. And where I consider it more secular than day to day, because the things that you mentioned are just day-to-day activities, in my perspective. Where the secular part comes in is removing God from the picture. So I have no qualm with atheists having morality, having an understanding of good and bad. Helping your fellow man is obviously a good action. Now, when you remove God from that picture, I wonder, how do you, at which point will the good or the bad start to lose, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, where does the standard go?
Sure. So
how come we, go ahead.
No. I don't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead and finish.
No, that was my thought.
Okay.
I would have just kind of said nonsense after that.
So what is our moral standard without God? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you keep a strict moral standard that is unchanging?
Whoa, why does it need to be unchanging?
Okay. Now, I think it needs to be unchanging because good can't be a changing thing. Bad can't be a changing thing. You can't say that today it is good to, or rather it is bad to lie, and tomorrow it is good to lie. I think that there has to be a standard that is unchanging in order for there to be good and bad.
Alex, one of the problems that I've had with religious morality is the fact that it remains set in stone even as we've learned more, and so it hasn't been able to improve. And an example of that was up until the late 1800s, homosexuality was a capital offense in the UK. The last person who was killed for homosexual acts, I believe, was like late 1800s. And even after it became no longer a capital crime, it was still a crime. And you had people like, what's his name, Alan Turing, who he used the Enigma machine to decode the German messages during World War II. This guy was a brilliant guy and kind of the forefather of computer science. And he was gay. And he faced tremendous government punishments simply for being gay. And in a secular world, you can look at that and you can take a step back and say, okay, who is he harming? Okay, he's not a pedophile. He's not a rapist. He's engaging in consensual acts with an informed adult, and there's no harm that's being done by that action. So in a secular worldview, we're able to take a step back and say, there's no harm that's being done. He's not detracting from someone else's pleasure or increasing their pain and suffering. So why should he have to suffer or be killed or be chemically castrated or be imprisoned? We can take these ideas and we can actually improve and update our morality based off of our understanding of how the world works. Whereas when you have a dogmatic system that's set in stone from, several thousand years ago, when people, they're herding goats and they don't have computer systems and they don't even know what psychology is or psychiatry. They don't have neuroscience. They can't do brain scans. Like, all of these things are thousands of years outside of their reach. They don't even have the printing press. They don't even have access to books, to leather-bound copies of books like the Book of Eric. Sorry, that was just right here, so it was my example.
Understood. That's okay.
But when you're in a society like that, there's so much knowledge that is completely outside of your grasp. And so you don't understand cognitive biases and self-delusions. You don't understand the mental mistakes that people make naturally. And so you're very prone to fall into those when you're coming up with this idea that, homosexuality is not natural. Well, you don't know at that point that it actually is. All throughout the animal kingdom, there's animals that are engaging in it. And even if it wasn't, the fact that it's not natural doesn't make it bad. Vaccines aren't natural, but they save thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives. Most medicine is not natural, but it saves lives. It's not immoral just because it's not natural. And it's ideas like this that thousands of years of moral philosophy and education and scientific advancement have granted us. Now, is our moral framework perfect now? I don't think so. Are we still putting the pieces together? Sure. But the fact is that we're learning more. And the second that you say that this is the unalterable dogmatic word of God, and that's your standard, you leave no room for updates, no room for advancement, and there's a lot of unnecessary suffering that inherently occurs.
That was a lot.
Okay.
All right. Alex, what do you think? Yeah, round of applause. I don't even think I have anything to add. Just a few little things, but that was fantastic. Alex, what do you think?
I can understand and respect that. Now, where I disagree is the unnecessary suffering part, and how people, I hear this time and time again, how by holding the Bible as a moral standard, it leads to suffering for pretty much anybody who's not Christian. And I think that's such a tremendous fallacy that it makes me upset every time I think about it, because the whole point of...
Well, I might be able to head this off, actually.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that point. You might be arguing with an atheist that's not on the show. I don't think that the Bible and believing the Bible necessarily leads to suffering. It all depends on what you do, right? Examples being, there are people who point to scriptures in the Bible to justify a whole bunch of horrendous acts. I think Thomas did a great job of describing a few of them. In that way, I think it is used to justify bigotry sometimes. But that doesn't mean that bigotry comes from it. It's just a vehicle for people to couch their bigotry in, right? I think that the most dangerous thing that Christianity and, most religions, all religions, the most dangerous thing that they do is a lot of them are built on this framework of epistemology, right? This is how we come to understand what is true. Did you ever hear somebody tell you, I believe the Bible because it stood the test of time?
I've heard all kinds of things. So
yeah.
That one's one.
Right? It stood the test of time. Does that make it true? Not really. All it means is that it's old.
I mean, the Gita's older than the Bible.
I believe the Bible because of prophecy that's been fulfilled. Well, when it's written after the fact, you can kind of squeeze anything in to fit what it... I don't know how that gets you to truth. Well, I believe because God showed himself to so many people in the Bible. Well, I can also write a book. That's why I bring sarcastically out my own, fictitious holy book to say, I could say the same thing in mine. How do we verify, right? But if
I could actually go out and fulfill hundreds of Nostradamus' prophecies right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
But, or you can just go and do a bunch of stuff and then afterwards write it down and say, I'm prophesying this and living up to the prophecy. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that. And while I don't think that all of it is necessarily dangerous in and of itself, I think that the thinking that gets people to go, this is enough for me to think that it's true, that's really dangerous. Because a lot of people can put that into, how they view politics or parenting or how to be a neighbor or an employee or a friend. And when you do those things, it can get really scary. I want to make sure that their epistemology, their thought process is as good as possible. Does that make sense?
It's like the difference between saying that just, every single Christian or following Christianity will always inevitably lead to the suffering of non-Christians versus it can. It leaves that door open and there's problems with it.
Right. And you both touched on a couple of the things I wanted to talk about anyway. But if I were to, I feel like atrocious acts have been committed on all sides. Because people are people. We all naturally do evil things without even having to be inspired to do it. But when people say, the Bible is justifying my reason for slavery or justifying my reason to attack homosexuals or to rape and pillage people who don't believe in my religion, I feel like those are people who are misusing the Bible because it never advocates for any of those things.
Wouldn't that be a privileged position of when you're living right now, though? Because if we were to go back a few hundred years, I think that the way you would understand the world would be fundamentally different and justifying some of those things.
Right. And now here's where I go back to my stance on it's either right or it's wrong. So the whole prospect of slavery, rape, and stoning people for whatever reason you find just has always been wrong when taken into man's own hands. Now, I know that...
Wait, hold on. Do you think that slavery, rape, and stoning people can ever be okay?
If Jesus had raped someone, would it have been justified?
Do you think it can ever be okay?
Never at all.
Okay.
I don't think it ever has been okay, and it won't become okay.
Okay, because you said taken into man's hands, and so we're both like, can your God do it? Would that make it okay?
I mean, technically, Mary was,
Go on,
Mary
Alex.
wasn't raped, but so I could, because I don't like it when people always say, well, the Bible advocates these things because of what they see Christians do in the name of the Lord or in the name of the Word of God. And then they justify these terrible things like Westbrook Baptist Church doing this evil stuff. We all know that it's bad, and the Bible clearly doesn't say do those things, but people misinterpret, or they just take it upon themselves to act out on this stuff, and they say God inspired me to do it, and then it gives Christianity a bad name and makes people misunderstand what Christianity really is.
Alex?
And I feel like... Go ahead.
This falls into No True Scotsman.
Okay. Oh, No True Scotsman, okay.
Yeah. And that's why we don't do that. This is why if somebody self-identifies as a Christian, we go, okay, and we go from there. And the better of us will make sure that we're talking to a bigot before we accuse them of bigotry, right?
Well,
right. Very few people are the better, though.
I think that the difference would be if your Bible straight up advocated 100% of the time, against, stoning people to death or, just slavery,
rape,
things like that, it would be a different story. But the fact is that you go into the Bible and you have Levitical law. This is not just, and then Johnny went out and raped someone or stoned someone or did something bad. It's not just an account of something that someone did that's not condoned. It's literally the law of the land as handed down by God on tablets and told to Moses. And not all of it was on tablets, but some of it. And so you have this as the law from God that is written down in the Bible, and it has things, saying when you should stone disobedient children or stone adulterous women or kill people for wearing mixed fabrics or for planting two types of seeds in the same field. Like, this is not something that you would expect in a divine holy book that transcends all of our knowledge about the universe.
I bet you, though, that Alex has a justification. Alex, what's your justification?
You bet that. Well, I'm glad I've left that impression on you. Well, So I think it all comes down to context. And I know you've heard this argument time and again, context. But when you consider the time, I don't want to say the time, when you consider the people, the Israelite people, and how they were supposed to be separated from the world, they were taken out of Egypt, and Egypt represented the world.
Hold on.
They were taken from Egypt as...
Whoa, are you about to make an argument that it's understandable that the genocide and rape and slavery was okay because of the time?
No, you said justify it according to the people, correct?
Well,
not according to the time. I don't think the time is as relevant as the context of the people.
Okay. Is it always wrong? Is it always wrong to rape and murder and enslave?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Perfect. Did what they do in the Bible, was that wrong?
Now here's what...
Yes. First, yes or no. Was it wrong?
It depends on the account.
No, it doesn't. You said it is always wrong, and then now you're saying it depends. Is rape and murder and slavery always wrong?
Yes, and I'm saying if we were to take it upon ourselves and just go and rape, enslave, and murder, then we are wrong. Now, when God said enslave or stone a child for disobeying parents, you have to look at
no, you don't.
Who he was talking to.
No, you don't. You don't. We even asked you, if God does it, is that okay? And you said, no, it's always wrong. Why are you going back? It feels to me like you're going back on what you said.
The only right or righteous treatment of a slave is to immediately grant them their freedom. End of story.
No. Okay, so
if you are owning another human being, that is immoral. Now, when you say it depends on the time or it depends on the context or it's bad for us to take it into our own hands, but at the time, no. No, I'm going to have to stop you right there. When there are passages that say, go in and slaughter the Amalekites, man, women, and children, except for the women who have not known a man by lying with him, take them for yourselves, that is condoning sexual slavery. There is no circumstance under which that is moral. You cannot say, oh, well, the time, though, the context, though. Well, those women, if you'd slaughtered everyone but them, you're actually granting them their life. And so it's a difference, you're being kind to them and giving them a place. No, you're slaughtering their family and you're taking them into sexual slavery.
I think now that's jumping to an extreme conclusion based on a little bit of...
Based on an extreme passage.
And the context of those people arguing it. Alex is not necessarily arguing it. We have to find out if that's what he's saying. Alex?
Yes.
Hey, is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that when God gives an instruction, it is a righteous thing because God is righteous.
Okay.
Now, if a person...
Hold on. Yeah, no, we're never going to agree with you on that. Ever.
This is why secular morality is better.
Yeah, there's no out for anyone. Rape and murder, genocide, and all of that is never okay.
I could say that if Allah says something, it makes it okay. And so a woman's testimony is going to be half that of a man's. And we should just kill the Jews who are living in our land. Or I could do anything. I could justify anything. And it doesn't make it okay simply because you claim that God says it, or because it's in a book that has stood the test of time, or because it's a holy book. Just because you say that, no, we can actually have an objective standard that says if you are doing something that results in harm, pain, and suffering on another human being, that is wrong.
I think we found where we fundamentally disagree.
And Alex, right. I feel like you're wrestling with this, and I don't feel like you're being dishonest. And I think that you're observing this, and I really hope that you take what we say to heart, and I hope that you hear it, because what we're advocating, we're not advocating for anti-theism in the sense that like, oh, we're opposed to all Christians, or we're opposed to all Muslims, or we hate you, or we want to persecute you or something like that. That's not it at all. We want to have a neutral environment where we can all practice our beliefs and have the freedom of and freedom from religion, but we don't want it forced on us. And examples of that are people who are in the LGBT plus community who are being discriminated against or persecuted, people who have harmful laws that are placed against them because of justifications from the Bible. And you don't have to go all the way back to slavery to find it. And
so Alex?
Yes.
Are we on the same page?
We are. I understand what you're saying, and I realize we're going to have disagreements.
Well, so fundamentally what you said is if God does it, then it's righteous, no matter what it is, correct?
Yes.
Think about that for a little while, because that's our fundamental disconnect. And where Thomas is coming from is once you go there, you cannot stop the rest of the justifications that he gave.
Anything becomes permissible.
But where we're starting here is a fundamental disagreement. Because God does it, it is just or righteous. And I would contend that rape, slavery, and genocide are never, ever justified or righteous. So
I agree with you.
Okay, then your God did something immoral, unrighteous, unjustified. Do you understand that?
Okay, you guys, I understand what you're saying, and that's why I was talking about the moral standard. You're saying that you have this moral standard all of a sudden. And
okay,
because God is saying that it's opposed to what you believe, then it's wrong. And what I'm saying is when God does something, it's always right because God is the moral standard. Now,
okay, then that seems like a pretty fucked up moral standard, Alex.
Okay, listen, he didn't, never did God say go rape people.
Yes, he has.
When he says...
No, yes, he has. I've got my Bible. Hold on a second. If in the live chat, you might actually beat me to it. Can we get a couple examples of justified rape?
I mean, the one that I just gave of taking the Amalekite women for yourself. I don't
like rape.
quite see that as a consensual sexual partnership.
Deuteronomy 22:28 through 29. If a man happens to meet a virgin who's not pledged to be married and rapes her and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver.
Which is basically, it's seen as rape in the Bible, based off of not just that verse, but others.
Exodus 21, 7 through 11. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she's not to go free as male servants do. If she does not please the master who selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners. We're talking about owning people as property, right?
And rape was seen as a property crime. It was, you have taken something, her purity from her, and because she's the property of her father and then her husband, then you have to pay for the property. It was
Genesis 34, the story of Shechem and Dinah. I mean, we can keep going. Deuteronomy 22, 13 through 21 is to stone women for not being a virgin on their wedding night.
Right, so these were serious offenses to God, to the Israelite people, because he wanted them to be separate.
That's disgusting. Alex, no, hold on, just stop there. We can do full stop. Full stop. That's gross. Do you think that is ever justified to do that, to own women or treat them as property?
No, not.
But your God did it. So is it justified that your God did it?
It happened in a time in history where
it was okay?
For whatever reason, for that specific people, in that context of time and place, that was what God said.
And that time in history was barbaric.
Yeah, that's wrong, dude. That's wrong on every level.
If he set that aside simply for his chosen people, then I sure as hell hope he never chooses me.
But, Alex, we've got other calls to take. Please call back in, because I really do want to take time and see if your view changes on this, because just because God did it makes it moral is a horrifying position to take. And it sounds like you're wrestling with it because you know that somewhere that that's not adding up. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, I appreciate your call.
All right, you guys. I feel like you didn't let me finish my thoughts, but maybe I'll call again some other time.
I appreciate it. Next time we won't jump all over you. Sorry about that.
All right, then. See you.
Take care.
I mean,
I get where you were coming from, but where you were going was a step ahead of where he was. You know what I mean? It was the justification once you grant the premise that he was saying. And while I agree with that, I think we can cut him off at the premise. I don't even think we need to go that far. If we've opened the Bible, then we've justified using it. And I don't think we're ever justified in using it until somebody gives that justification.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no other circumstance under which you would say that reasoning would sound anything other than barbaric. I mean, imagine if I were to substitute God with, if I'm living under an authoritarian regime, and I say, well, actually, if Kim Jong-un says it, therefore it's good.
Yeah.
They say that in regimes like that. And he's treated, in a way as a deity. And, you cannot question his word. His word is law and his word is good. And as soon as you outsource that to the ethereal spiritual realm, this notion of a deity, which has no justification to even believe that it exists, then you can all of a sudden start taking around this book and saying that this is the voice of God. And
therefore it's justified.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have, monarchies that come in and say, and you had this all throughout the Dark Ages, is you had monarchies that would come in and say, the voice of the king is the voice of God. I've been appointed, and so therefore, you're supposed to listen to everything that I say. Yeah. And it's, as soon as you start doing that, you have people that are able to hijack it. You have popes and spiritual leaders and stuff who are able to say, well, this is what God wants, and they can use this book in any way that they want. They can take passages and say, well, actually, the New Testament says this, but the Old Testament said that, and well, Jesus says this, but Paul said this to clarify it. And you can do this. You can
do these gymnastics.
Do all kinds of mental gymnastics. The problem with it is that there's nothing in this book to lend any credence to the idea that it is actually divine. It's convoluted and jumbled as fuck. And if God actually was not, as the Bible says, the author of confusion, and I'm stealing this from Cosmic Skeptic, that if God is not the author of confusion, then God is not the author of your Bible, because this book is all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, what he said. All right. We're running short on time, so I want to thank the patrons before we get to our next call. Our top patrons are Neil Bradley, Rachel.
Hey, Neil.
Charlotte Crum, Desert Heathen, and Dr. Funkenstein. Thank you all so much for being our top patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. All right, let's dive into the next call. Yeah, that one went long. Let's see if we can shoot through a couple. Weaver in Missouri. You're talking to Eric and Thomas. We're doing good. We don't have a whole lot of time, so we got to know, let's dive right into it.
This shouldn't take too long.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I absolutely love the show. I found it back in January, and I've been watching it ever since.
Cheers.
So what I want to get into is the premise of God as a whole.
Okay.
I'm not a Christian. I grew up as one, but I'm more on the atheist side now.
Okay.
If God does exist, he's not the God from the Bible. He's not the God from the Quran. He does not care about us. If he does exist,
he doesn't
care.
I mean,
why does it have to have a penis?
Get out of my head. Get out of my head. What's the use of said holy penis?
I've watched Talk Heathen before.
I know. Well, but let's say I don't know the character of God, right? I haven't seen a convincing argument yet, but I'm open to it, and that's why we do this show, because we want to continue to be open to it.
Like I said, I'm leaning more on the atheist side, so I don't honestly believe he's real because I don't have the evidence for it. But all I'm saying is, if he does exist, he doesn't care about us. Or why would he care about what ants think about him?
Honestly.
Why would he force us? Yeah, why would he give us free will and then tell us, you have no choice but to worship me, or you're going to suffer in all eternity?
Yeah.
I did a video on this topic called "Is God an Alien from Outer Space?" and it looks at five different ideas for God that are more plausible than the God of the Bible. And
I think that was actually the next video I was going to be watching from you, because I subbed to your channel probably about 2 months ago.
Oh, Cheers. Cool. So in that video, I break down and look at some different ideas. And like one of them is Isaac Asimov's The Last Question, or The Final Question. It's a short story, and it looks at how our technology eventually gets us to the point where we become like gods. It's based off of the idea that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic or indistinguishable from deities, depending on if you're going with who was it that coined the first one?
That's okay. We get the point. We're short on time.
Yeah, but so essentially, though, you could have a God that is. I don't know if there's anything outside of our universe. I don't know if we're in a multiverse. I don't know is the safest thing to say. But if there was a Men in Black style, you zoom all the way out and it's just aliens playing, marbles with our universes or with our galaxies, then if that was the case, even if they sparked it or created it in some type of lab experiment for their, high school science class, what's to say that they could actually engage in or go into our universe and actually have a son that's born of a human?
You too. I'm glad but we need to move on. All right. Thank you, Weaver.
Again, happy birthday, Eric. And
thank you, brother.
I'll probably call him the next time I have a topic.
Sounds good. Take care, brother.
All right.
I appreciate it. But who cares? Who cares?
Well, no,
who cares?
I do. And
why?
I'll tell you why. Because this is so crucial and so important, because you'll have people that come up with these, logical proofs or arguments for the existence of God.
Why don't you wait until they present it to you and then move into it? But why would you give an answer without a question?
But he made the statement that even if a God existed, the fact that it would be necessarily this God is an extremely far-fetched conclusion. And I wanted to run with it and say, yes, I 100% agree with you. Even if, and I don't think that it's the case that there are, sound logical proofs for God, but even if there were, and even if we could, conclusively show some first cause, that does not mean that it's the God of the Bible. And that does not mean that there's a shred of truth in this. Just saying.
Yeah, I mostly believe. I'm mostly with you on most of that. There are some things in the Bible that are just, descriptions of things that are true about the world that we live in. So I'm not saying it's
100%. I'm not saying it's 100%.
Want to make sure that we clear that.
There are things in the Bible that I think were accurate.
And then the other thing is you need to be able to have something else to be able to justify it, because one thing cannot in and of itself justify itself. And you had earlier stated there's nothing in here that shows that it's justified. It can't. Even if it was completely through and through consistent, you would still need verification and justification to be able to accept it. Right?
Yes. But it's not consistent.
But even if it was.
Then yes, I grant that.
All right. So we need to go quickly through the next two. Okay. I'm sorry. I love you, man. You know I do. I know where you live. That's because, anyway. Becky in Kentucky.
Hi, yes, that's me.
I was in Kentucky, and let me tell you, I had somebody in my passenger seat, and I was like, I'm going to stop for gas. And they're like, no, you're not. This is KKK territory. You need to keep going. Becky, when I left the ARC protest, I was followed by a police officer on the highway for 5 exits from that protest. Scared the How do you survive there? Not only that, I feel like you can cut the air with a knife. It's so humid.
Yeah. So my question is, if you're talking to another person and they seem smart and they seem like, is this person an atheist? Mm-hmm. I don't know, and I'm kind of in public. How do I know? Is there like a secret thing that you could say? Like, I saw a cloud today that looked like a whale, and if they answer you like with, well, I saw a cloud that looked like a rooster.
Oh my gosh!
Like, oh yeah, okay.
Atheist code words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually sounds hilarious. Like Reddit, if you're an old school Redditor, that's when does the narwhal bacon, right? Is kind of a code word for, at midnight. We should come up with one. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I honestly the best answer is if you can live as an out atheist, then you're going to attract people to you. The best thing is to talk about it openly and honestly and be okay with it, because when you do that, you normalize it and it becomes okay for other people.
I'm a pastor's daughter.
I'm a missionary kid, so I'm right there with you. But my closet is 99% shirts that say, like, I'm an atheist or loud, proud atheist or this secular, atheist boats.
Yeah. So my husband actually met you. Like, he was at the convention.
Oh.
Which one of us?
He's the one who he read the Dungeons and Dragons at your seminar thing.
Oh.
So I don't know if you remember him. That was him. I had to stay home with the babies.
Oh, well, hopefully next time.
You're going to be so far away.
I wish I could have seen you. I was there last weekend.
Yeah, I had the babies.
Yeah.
I had the babies.
Okay.
But,
well, I'd love to be able to catch you another time. Sorry I missed you both times.
I'm a mom, and I call myself an atheist. I think this is the first time I've actually outright said it.
Woohoo!
Like, I've actually said that, but I don't have horns. I'm not somebody that's out to rage and pillage.
No, and you have a baby and you haven't eaten it yet.
She hasn't gotten her horns yet.
No. So, I'm not an evil person, just I say that. And it's hard to say that because, I'm a pastor's daughter. But, it's...
The social consequences are rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my friend, my sister actually has a friend who's got, like, a big name pastor dude. He's actually got, like, a road named after him. And my parents were talking about how, like, it's apparently this guy's an atheist. And so I was sitting at the table and I was just like, I was like, so what did his parents do? Like, what would you guys do? Like, what?
Please, let me know what I'm in for.
Would you, like, shove him out of your house? And, like, how would you guys react to that? Because, and he was friends on my Facebook, and then I guess he's just off of Facebook. And so, like, I've been thinking, like, what would you do? A secret, like, I saw a cloud that looked like a whale, and, I saw a cloud that looked like a rooster.
I mean, typically, if I'm trying to gauge whether or not someone is going to completely ostracize me based off of if they're religious or not, I don't just outright, say, in your face, I'm an atheist. I will go about it tactfully. It depends on how much time you have. If it's just like a 2-second passing thing, it's harder to do. But if you have a few minutes with them, you can bring up something, a particular situation and, gauge their feelings and their reactions to it. You can say things like, well, I'm not really religious or something, which goes over actually really well even in religious circles, because a lot of times they'll reply with, oh, yeah, I don't have a religion either. I love Jesus, but I'm not,
I have a relationship.
I have a relationship or something. And then instantly, okay, like this person, like, they're Christian, or they might be like, yeah, I'm not really religious either.
They're even questioning it.
Or they'll say, oh, I'm spiritual but not religious, but I kind of relate to you there. And then like people are pretty cool with that. That's an easy way to do it, is just to say like, I'm not really religious. And most people aren't going to completely write you off for that, as opposed to if you outright say, I'm an atheist. But even atheism is becoming so much less stigmatized and more normalized as the years go on, and as more and more people become.
I really hope so. I hope that is going to be my kids' generation.
We just got
my parents were hippies. My generation, I think, was more like, it's okay to be gay, and I really hope that my kids' generation can be, it's okay that I don't have a religion. Like, I hope that will be something that's more free to them,
We just got a donation that says, let's make the Becky code a thing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, do you know Becky? and if they know Becky, it's a good sign. I like that. Let's make that a thing. Becky, we've got to move on. But
hallelujah.
Oh, please no. Please no.
No.
All right, Becky, you take care.
All right. Happy birthday, yeah.
Thank you. Do you know Becky?
That reminds me of, wasn't there like, there's a gay code for like if people are gay, and I forget, I'm trying to remember what movie it was. But in the U.S. military, they were trying to weed out gay soldiers when it was illegal to be gay. And there's a particular actress, I'm trying to remember, who, if you said, have you seen so-and-so, or I'm a friend of this actress, but they would just say the first name. And so everyone looked for someone with that first name, thinking that person would have a list of all of the gay people.
Yeah.
When it was actually just code for, oh yeah, I'm gay.
Well, we'll probably see that in the live chat in just a minute. So we only have a minute or two left. Tor in Norway. Sorry we waited so long, man. What did you want to talk about? Let's see if we can shoot through it.
Well, I'm a Freemason.
Okie dokie.
One of the requirements in Norway is to become a Freemason is that you are of Christian faith.
Right. I actually was looking at joining a Masonic order and couldn't because, you had to believe. So it's the same thing out here. How are you rationalizing the two?
Well, I've been a member for 23 years, and we have a 10-degree system, and the Christianity is slowly revealed more and more. And after watching your show and the other shows you have for the last year, I am an atheist now because there's so much stupidity.
Yeah, love that.
And it's a little bit in conflict with what I'm doing in the lodge, but I found out that there are so many other nice things. We got some very nice tools to handle the outside world and morality things. So
Tor,
I think I can get by. Yeah.
Rock on, man. I've got the producer in my ear, and he's given me the signal. Please call back. And the only thing that I want to say is stay in and make the change from the inside. When you quit, you don't get to make the change. The people who are in it get to make those changes. And if you can show people you're a good person and all of that and still be active, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Unless they start being abusive to you.
Yeah. But that's...
Then you have to look out for yourself.
But that's something we can pick up. You take care, man.
Thanks for the advice.
Hey, thank you. I'm sorry.
Take care, too.
Will do. Can we see the back room? I really, really want to thank the people in the back. Yes, that is the crew cam. I want to thank everybody on the crew. I want to thank everybody in the live studio audience for coming. Thank you. Thomas, thank you so much for coming out, man. I'm sorry that I got rushed at the end. I just wanted to try and shoot everybody else through. I apologize.
It's friend of Dorothy.
Dorothy. Okay.
Yeah, Dorothy.
Oh, Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Alrighty, man. Do you remember how to sign off?
Yep.
All right, so let's start with some love rings. Remember, if you go to the link at the bottom of this show right now, the premiere of the third segment for Atheist Vanguard is there. So feel free to follow that. Until then, if you don't believe, this is a community for you. We're happy that you're here. Come find us. Come and join us. 1507 West Koenig Lane, Austin, Texas. And if you can't, reach out online because we're building a community. And if you do believe, do you remember?
We don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong. See you next week.